Do you feel that what we're talking about here tonight is realistic?
Bismillah, all praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and peace and blessing be upon Muhammad. Whomsoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides, no one can lead astray, and whomsoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala misguides, no one can guide. And I bear witness that there is no worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the Almighty, and that Prophet Muhammad, peace and a blessing be upon him, peace upon his family, and peace upon those who follow his first steps until the end of the time. Basically, Usama, before I go any further, I'd just like to say something is very important to mention some point which I think it will support our today's topic.
Yes.
Before I speak about ethics and before I start to speak about your questions,
Please.
I'd like to say that the problem not in applying ethics, the problem not on applying adab, the problem not on applying to be happy with the others or to laugh at the others or to do this and that. The problem that the misleading that happened, that we didn't know the target of this dunya. Allah Azza wa Jal, when He created us, He informed us in different verses in the Holy Quran that Allah Azza wa Jal created us only for worshipping Him. The deen of Islam is the deen of peace, the deen of ethics, the deen of tranquility, the deen of everything. The problem that not applying these ethics on the ground, that people didn't know the deen of Islam itself.
Yes.
When you look at the beginning, for example, Allah Azza wa Jal said in the Holy Quran, اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. Today I have perfected your religion for you, and I have completed my favor upon you, and I have chosen the deen of Islam for you. So generally, the deen of Islam is not only ethics or part of it, it's only part of it. But all the deen of Islam, if anyone will only focus in one part, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentioned in another verse, when He said, ادخلوا في السلم كافة. Oh, you who believe, enter in Islam heartedly.
Definitely.
So generally, we will not only say that ethics related to dealing with others, or only with like people that, as you said, you mentioned that they're cursing each other and they're cursing the deen itself, because people don't know their aqeedah. When you look at the Islam from the perspective of the fiqh, or from the perspective of the usul al-fiqh, to be specific with you, you can find that the scholars of Islam, they differentiated the rights into three general or three major rights. The right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the right of ourselves, and the right of people. People only focus with the right of people, which is akhlaq, or dealing with themselves. But when you look at the first right, which is the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, informed Mu'az, أتدري يا معاذ ما حق الله على العباد؟ قلت الله ورسوله أعلم وما حق العباد على الله. The Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, informed Mu'az, O Mu'az, did you know the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon His creation, and the creation's right upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? He said, the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon His creation, to only worship Him, and not making any associating or any partner with Him. And the right and the creation's right upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He will make them enter to Al-Jannah without punishing them. Also from the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the right of the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, on applying his rule, on applying his guidance, on following his footsteps. If people at the beginning, knowing the target and the vision and the mission of this dunya, that we are here in this dunya not only for joy, we are here in this dunya not for the sake of money, not for the sake of women, not for the sake of working in a corporates and working in a multinational company and taking like a big salary. No, all this under the meaning which is inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya lillahi rabbil alamin. Inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alamin. That everything in this dunya is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when people at the beginning understand these concepts, this meaning, this aqeedah, the first thing that the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, did it with the company, he didn't start with them with the ethics. And I think that from my own perspective, it's a mistake that the dua or the scholars, they started with akhlaq, or started only with like because you find nowadays that happen that a lot of people, they only focus in this part, that you have to deal with others in a good way and to do this and that, without understanding the main concept or the main reason of this creation and these old heavens. So when at the beginning, when we start to treat these problems, as you informed me at the beginning of this episode, we can look that we have lack at the beginning of knowing the aqeedah, lack of understanding why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us. And you find nowadays they killing themselves. And the problem that occurred in the West and in the Arabian countries and everything that occurs now is because they are far away from the Islamic Sharia, not only applying the Islamic Sharia, they are far away from understanding the meaning of this dunya. the meaning of this life, and maybe that you find some of them, they understand the meaning of this dunya, but they didn't apply this on the ground. So I think, Usama, that
So
your question...
basically, what you're saying is that the lack of akhlaq, or the things that we see on the street, are basically symptoms of a bigger disease, and that is a problem with understanding or realizing the correct aqidah.
Yes. This one. Two, didn't understand the Sharia itself, lack of knowledge. As you know, when the scholars, they said, Al-ilm ثلاث. قال الله وقال الرسول وقال الصحابة. That Allah Azza wa Jal said in the verses, and the Prophet ﷺ in his narrations, and of course, as-Sahaba, the companion, with the understanding of the companion.
Yes.
People themselves didn't understand this part. You find today nowadays that they are focusing their effort for learning the languages and for taking courses in these different fields for the dunya, for working in a famous corporate and for gaining money. This materialism that we are living there makes the others people, they are far away from the meaning of the Quran. You find today, Usama, your friend, you can find, for example, he read the Holy Quran wrong. He cannot even understand what does it mean, these words. They are far away from the track. So, one, people, they didn't understand the Aqidah, which is at the beginning, Al-Rububiyyah, Wal-Uluhiyyah, Wal-Asma' Wal-Sifat, and dealing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In this regard, I'd like to say something very important. Look at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he informed the Sahaba about this Aqidah. Look what happened. 23 years, the whole world changed. Subhanallah al-Azim. Nowadays, you find that everyone has his own thoughts, has his own thing that he said, like, has his own mindset. He said, like, I like this part, I dislike this part. Even the Quran and Sunnah, they can dealing their opinion, and they can make their opinion like, no, this verse is not logic. This hadith, I think, no, this is not right. They are following their desires. So basically, the lack of knowing the Aqeedah at the beginning and applying it upon themselves. Two, lack of knowing of the Sharia and the lack of knowledge. I think these two important part which play an important role in what happened today.
Thank you so much for this introduction. And
by the way, it was a catchy question, which, mashallah, it was your way of dealing with the episode, mashallah.
It's something that just happened today, and I said that it would be worth mentioning because it's related to our topic.
Jazakumullah khair, Usama.
Wa iyyakum, inshallah. All right, Brother Khalid, let me ask you, our focus today, as we said, is tarbiyah based on ethics. Like, how can we make tarbiyah for ourselves so that we can better our manners and our ethics. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that this is only one aspect, right? It's not, what Islam is, as some people try to say. Islam is all about ethics and this and that. No, it's really one aspect. So let's talk a little bit about its meaning. What does it mean, this concept, ethics in Islam?
Basically, before I start to speak about the meaning, I'd like to say something also is important. When we start to look at the meaning of ethics from the Islamic perspective, we have to understand that we will search about the meaning in the Arabian dictionaries. Because English dictionaries is far away from the meaning. Maybe it would be a meaning regarding the education or regarding any field or branches of psychology or sociology or whatever. And of course, the Quran came with bilisan al-Arabiyyin mubin. It came with the Arabic tongue. So we have to understand that when we deal with this terminology from the Islamic perspective, we can look at these types of dictionaries, the Arabian, like Lisan al-Arab, and the other famous dictionaries. When you look at this meaning, to free the terminology, ethics, you can find that they said that trait, something innate, something inborn, something inside the character. And when you look at if we look at the psychology perspective, we can say that psychology perspective, they say that something is called traits, attributes, something inside the human being. It's not something outside. And when we look at the Islamic perspective, you can find the major verse that came in this subject, which is قال الله عز وجل وإنك لعلى خلق عظيم. And most surely you are in the utmost of the good character. When you look at the interpretation of this ayah or this verse, you can like Ibn Abbas when he said that إنك على دين. So we are in the moral. And also when you look at Ibn Kathir, you can find also the same meaning. A lot of meanings in different tafsir that interpret this meaning على دين, على خلق عظيم, means deen, moral. But it's very high moral. Also regarding this part, regarding the Sunnah, you can find that Aisha, when they asked Aisha may Allah be pleased with her, they said about the khuluq of the Prophet ﷺ. She said, كان خلقه القرآن. And she said in another narration, كان قرآنا يمشي في الأرض. So his character was a Quran. He was applying all the regulations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was applying all the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not only rules regarding dealing with others, but ruling with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in aqeedah, in worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a relationship between him and his Rabb, and the relationship between him and himself, and the relationship between him and his, as a husband, and a trader, or whatever. So when the ulama, the scholars, when they start to apply the induction methodology, which is called istiqra', they said that the meaning, according to the difference meaning from the Arabian dictionaries plus the Quran plus the Sunnah, we can understand that the tarbiyah, as Imam al-Ghazali mentioned, there is something, I'm sorry, the husn al-khuluq or al-khuluq, there is something inside the human being that is inborn, and he can take the action, the source of it is an action, he can take it without estimating or without thinking of it. That is came one more time like that. And it's called sajiyya or at-taba. Something that if it happened to you, your feedback directly without thinking, without estimating, this will be your khuluq. Also in this part, Usama, I'd like to mention something is very important. People can say that al-adab is al-akhlaq. No, we have to differentiate between these two important terminologies. Al-khuluq, something that is internal, something that is inborn, something that is inside us. We didn't estimate, we didn't think about it. But al-adab is related to the behavior. Like for example, now I can speak in a good way, I can say something which is very easy. But this is not in my khuluq, this is not in my character.
Kind of, you could just be like, for example, like when someone's in front of people, he's talking one way,
yes,
but when he's with his friends, he's talking another way.
Yes, this is called his behavior. So al-khuluq is higher than, is the highest thing on applying this ruling of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the behavior, anyone can do it. Like for example, he's speaking with his father, he started to look at his father in a humble way, and he said, yes, I will do this and that, but on the ground, they didn't apply that. Also those, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy upon us and support us with mercy. You can find that a lot of people, they are saying al-akhlaq, and we have to apply the good akhlaq, and you find himself, he didn't apply that. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the good akhlaq in our life. So this terminology, I think, as I informed you, from the different perspective, Sharia and the other sources.
Perfect. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
Huda TV's social media sites are the best way to contact us from anywhere around the world. Stay connected with Huda TV's latest news and programs through Facebook, Twitter, Google+, YouTube, Skype, and Instagram. It's fast and easy. Stay up to date with your favorite shows and scholars today. Huda TV, a light in every home.